Glad to welcome him. He just drove straight in from the Nashville community, lives out Hendersonville, out in that high-rent district. And he's got his family with him because he's got a little homecoming activity tomorrow over in Chillicothe. But we're going to talk all things Jerry Salley right now. Hello, Jerry.
Hey, Joe. It's good to see you, buddy.
I'm glad you had a safe trip in. And you're here on the occasion of a new album. The new album is called Songwriter, correct?
Yes, sir. The Songwriter.
The Songwriter.
The Songwriter, yeah.
Well, I knew you were a phenomenal songwriter. We got acquainted, I could say close to a decade ago. You sent the Radio Ramblers a song, our song All Dressed Up. It was the first thing we recorded of yours, and then there's been several that have followed. We played one just a minute ago. I think 2 or 3 of the songs that we've recorded of yours were a collaboration, meaning you've got a network. It's a big family of songwriters throughout the greater Nashville community and some outside of Central Tennessee that you've scored hit songs with in country and bluegrass and gospel. Co-writing, you say that became a big deal about 30 years ago when you hit Nashville, didn't it?
It sure did. You know, growing up, I was kind of a nerd. I wanted to see. I looked at the credits. I wanted to see who the writers were. I wanted to see who the musicians were that played on all these records when I was a kid. And, of course, back then, if you go back and look, most of those songs were written by one writer. Very seldom did you. Sometimes you'll see 2 because there were a lot of, duos.
I mentioned Felice and Boodle O'Brien a minute ago.
Exactly.
They were the first collaborative team that really moved the needle in Nashville.
Yep, they sure did. And then later there was Foster and Rice and a bunch of different folks. But when I moved to Nashville, I quickly realized that Nashville was a co-writing town. But you had to be able to write a song by yourself before they would give you the opportunity to get in a room with a hit songwriter and learn anything.
You had to prove yourself.
Yeah, so I was very blessed. They thought I had enough goods to get in a room with some of these folks that became my mentors, like Jim Rushing and Jim McBride and some of those guys, and later Carl Jackson. And so really, I've had over 560-some songs recorded now, different songs, but most of those I co-wrote. I've had a few songs I've written by myself that have been recorded and hits, but for the most part, most of them were co-writing.
Yeah.
And so, I got to thinking, I'm getting older, just had a birthday last week, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I thought, there's co-writers and there's songwriters. And I thought, I don't want everybody to think I'm just a co-writer. So I went about to start writing 10 or 12, 15, I ended up with 15 or 16 songs that I wrote by myself. Took me a while. It takes me 2 hours to watch 60 Minutes, so I'm not a fast writer, as you know. We've gotten together a couple times, but it just takes me a while to get it the way I want it. Because when you're writing by yourself, it's kind of a lonely place. You don't have when you're with a co-writer, you can bounce the ideas off of them.
Yeah.
And you'll write along the line, and you'll think, man, I think that's pretty good. But your co-writer will say, that's it. Let's go with that. And when you're writing by yourself, you're like, I think that's good. I think. So,
yeah.
Well,
when you got 2 of you, you got twice the horsepower.
That's right.
And
that's right.
And you can share the idea, the thought, exchange ideas on the melody.
Yeah.
And once both of you agree, then it's pretty easy.
That's right.
If you're all by yourself, you can think it, rethink it, kick it over, restack it.
Every one of these songs, I had multiple verses, and a lot of times it would just be a one-line change to make it different than the one I had before. But writing songs is like putting a puzzle together to me. I write all the pieces out that I think it needs to have in it, and then I'll move things around to get them where I think they need to be.
Like a kid dumping out a big bucket of Legos.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. We're talking to Jerry Salley on Real Roots Radio. I'm Joe Mullins. It's the Hymns from the Hills Hour for a few more minutes. And Jerry has stopped in because he's on the way to Chillicothe, celebrating the release of a new album. Just talking about he was the singular writer on a whole new collection of songs. And the new album becomes available tomorrow called The Songwriter, Jerry Salley. There's one gospel selection among this collection of songs. Is it just the one gospel song out of the 12?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And it's a combination, bluegrass, country, gospel, story songs. Mm-hmm. You've written all that stuff the last 30, 40 years.
Yes, sir. It's the overall album is obviously bluegrassy, but there are a couple of songs that would lend more to a singer-songwriter country song, the traditional country stuff.
A good song's a good song. It don't matter what label or what bucket you put it into.
Yes, sir.
And you've written so many that work in almost any genre if you've got somebody that can deliver a song with some heart.
No, thank you.
That's good stuff. Your hometown is Chillicothe, right?
Yes, sir. Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Left there just a year after high school or something, didn't you?
Well, I grew up there. I ended up going to Ohio University in Athens, and so I got a degree there. And as soon as literally within 4 or 5 weeks of graduating college, I was in Nashville and got a place.
Now, growing up in Chillicothe, were you a picker and a singer as a teenage guy around town?
Oh yeah. My dad played banjo. He's a 5-string banjo player, and man, he was good. He was extremely shy. He never would get on a stage and perform in front of people.
Oh, I should have been more like your dad.
No, I don't think so. But he drug me around to every picking party, he could find, and that's kind of how I grew up. By the time I was 10 years old, I entered my first talent contest, which was at my little elementary school there in Masseyville, Ohio, just right there at the southern edge of Chillicothe, right on 23. And I was in 6th grade, and I won first place, singing a Johnny Cash song called "I Still Miss Someone." You know that old song. Yeah. And I got the bug when I won that $10. I thought I'd hit the big time, And so next thing you know, Mom and Dad, we went to Bainbridge to play the Paint Valley Jamboree for a lot of years. Ross County Jamboree was in Frankfort. And so those are the kind of places I played. And by the time I was in college, I was a regular on the WMNI Country Cavalcade, which was out of Columbus, Ohio, every Saturday night live, kind of like a mini Opry show, really. Yeah. So it was always you and a guitar singing something connected to country, bluegrass, or gospel. Yes, sir. That's right. It still is. It sure is. It sure is. Well, when did you start writing songs? When did that become a part of who you wanted to be? Yeah. So you finish up high school in Chillicothe. College at Athens. Did you study something in college that was relative to the music business? I did for 1 year. I wanted to be a performer, and of course I knew country music, and so my first year of college I was a music major. But at OU, you couldn't get a degree in country music course. They didn't have a business degree. I wanted to go to Belmont in Nashville because they were the only ones in the country at that time offered a music business degree. Right. But it was just way too expensive for us out of state. Still is. Oh, I know. It's crazy. Great school. It's a great school, but it's extremely expensive. But anyway, I thought, well, I'll go down there and get me a music degree. Well, it only was going to let me teach music, and I didn't really want to be a performer more than a teacher. Right. And so anyway, I'll never forget my first, my instrument was voice, but I also had piano because I took piano as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget my very first piano lesson. You'll get a charge out of this, it's I probably shouldn't tell it. It's so embarrassing. But so I'm having my first piano lesson, and my teacher's from the Juilliard School of Music. He had graduated there and came to Ohio University to become a professor. And he asked me, he said, "Who's your favorite pianist?" And I looked right at him. I said, "You ever heard of a guy named Ronnie Millsap?" Yeah. And he looked at me with fear in his face, and he was like, "I have no idea who that is." Wow. And I ran down the hill. I was my dorm was just at the foot of the hill there from where my class was. And I remember getting on a payphone and calling Mom and Dad and said, "What am I doing over here? Yeah. These people don't even know who Ronnie Millsap is." I thought you might have said Millsap or Jerry Lee. Yeah, well, yeah. Jerry Lee was a great one too. Yeah, but that professor probably didn't like him either, though. Right. Knowing the time. That's right. So but after the end of my first year, I won I auditioned for our play at the end of the year, and I was the prince in The Magic Apple. And that was really the nail in the coffin for me because I had to wear tights and tunic, and I just was a little uncomfortable. But I got through it, and it went well. But I changed my degree after that. I became a business major. Yeah. Yeah, you can do anything with that. Right. And so after Ohio University, you wound up headed straight for Nashville. Yes, sir. To pursue your passion. Yeah. Picking, singing. Yep. When did the songwriting piece come in? Because you are a great singer. You can deliver any type of song. And I've seen you do so many solo things, just you and a guitar, and it's captivating. Oh, thank you. But the icing on the cake, the appeal is your craft of songwriting. When did you start writing songs? I wrote my first song when I was 16. I grew up listening to Tom T. Hall. And, of course, we didn't have laptops and iPads back then, so I'd write out all the lyrics, to memorize them and learn them as a kid. Me and Jesus, the year Clayton Delaney died, just a slew of stuff. And I always was enamored in how he told a story. I wanted to know, so I studied his lyrics a lot, and it inspired me. He inspired me to be a songwriter. And I wrote my first song when I was 16. It was a bluegrass song. I'm trying to remember how it goes. It's been so long ago since I've got it out, but it's probably one that people shouldn't hear anyway. But that was my first song. And then when I was 18, and you may remember this young lady. She's from the Columbus area, Circleville, Columbus area, but her name was Holiday Parker is what she went by. And when I was a kid, she was about my age. She wasn't much older than me, but she was on Wheeling Jamboree a lot and WMNI Country Cavalcade, and she was getting ready to do a record. And she recorded the first song I'd ever written that was recorded. Mm-hmm. She recorded it on a record that she did, actually not too far from here in Blue Ash. Mm-hmm. And so that really gave me the bug when I heard that on the radio.
Yeah,
And then I just decided I wanted to be a country artist. I thought I'd be a Grand Ole Opry star someday, which, believe it or not, May the 19th coming up will be exactly 40 years on May 19th that I made my Opry debut. Porter Wagner had me on.
84.
Yep, 1984. Yep. I had my oldest daughter was born on the 11th of May. She got a birthday coming up Saturday. And she was born on a Friday night on the 11th, and he called me on Saturday at the hospital to congratulate me. Porter did, and he said, "By the way, how'd you like to be on the Grand Ole Opry next Saturday night?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, let me think about. Okay, I think I'll do that."
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know it's been many times since then, and you've made those connections. Your songs have landed in the catalogs of some of the biggest people in the country music business for the past 40 years. But you've worked the last couple of years putting together a collection of all Jerry Salley compositions, not with co-writers. You've named off some of the biggest writers and producers in Nashville a minute ago, from Jim Rushing to Carl Jackson. But every one of these songs just say Jerry Salley. The Songwriter by Jerry Salley, this new 12-song collection, releases tomorrow. Jerry's on the way to Chillicothe to celebrate the release. Give us the details of the performance tomorrow night, the party. Everybody's invited. We got an audience from here all the way to Ross County, and you're going to be...
it's called the Postmark.
The Postmark.
The Postmark. It's the old U.S. Chillicothe Post Office. It's a beautiful old building. Uh-huh. And some folks have renovated that and made a venue out of it. Uh-huh. And it is just beautiful inside. But it'll be tomorrow night.
I would assume it's old downtown then.
It is. It's right downtown on Paint Street. Matter of fact, the address is 105 South Paint Street. Mm-hmm. And it's called the Postmark. The show will start at 7 o'clock. All right. We as of yesterday afternoon, we only had 6 tickets left.
Wow!
So we're just about sold out.
That's great. CD release event.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we're gonna. We've had a big old cake made. We're gonna serve cake, and since it's Mother's Day coming up, I think I'm gonna give away a few things to some mothers there in the audience. I just got a lot of fun stuff planned, and really looking forward to it. I've been wanting to do something. I've played in my hometown several times, since I've left years ago, but. I've wanted to do a CD release party for a long time, and I thought this would be the perfect one to try to do.
Absolutely. All solo effort. Of course, it's not just you and a guitar. You got a full team of Nashville friends and pickers helping all this out.
Yeah, some of the best in the bluegrass
Some of the
world.
best in the business, yeah. Aaron McDarris on the banjo, plays banjo with Rhonda Vincent and the Rage. Him and Justin Moses and Jeff Parton, that's Cody Kilby. An all-star team surrounding Jerry Salley. The Songwriter is the new album. A big release party tomorrow night in Jerry's hometown of Chillicothe. I'm going to play a Jerry Salley song from a couple of years ago, and we're going to come back in a few minutes. Jerry's going to have the guitar and sing a couple of these new tunes for us live on Real Roots Radio, on all of our audio sources, and live on our Facebook page. Jerry, I'm going to play one of my wife's favorite songs.
All right.
And my wife, Tammy, it says right on here, Mama Tam's Black Raspberry and Blueberry Jam. Mm-hmm. When I started out of the house this morning, I told her, I said, Jerry and Aaron are going to stop by the studio. Right. Jerry will be on the radio with me. She said, the first time I heard a song that talked about breaking green beans on the front porch and listening to the pressure canner scream. She said, I didn't know who it was, but I've been a fan ever since.
Oh, bless her heart.
That's one of her favorite songs.
Oh, thank you.